after an hour and a half of sitting through this unbearably boring movie, the final got you moment is the lame plot twist where the main character is actually insane and it's all in his head. He wakes up surrounded by padded walls and 3 square meals a day. Do not go see this movie.
Yeah, that movie was bad as f***.
And now, it's time for the economic breakdown. Dude, that beat was freaky fresh. A lot of news out there about the economy these days. From unemployment to GDP to inflation, the economic breakdown covers it all.
What are we going to start with, dude?
Let's get it kicking with inflation. First off, there's some big news going down lately.
What's been going on that's got you so excited? Or better yet, what is inflation anyway?
It's actually really simple. Inflation is a term used to explain the general increase of prices of goods and services and the fall in the value of our US dollar.
Sounds bad. Super bad. Don't even get me started with movies again.
It doesn't actually have to be a negative thing. Without inflation, the economy could never operate properly. Think about a person that has a fixed mortgage rate. They pay a flat percentage every month and that fixed rate will not change. Meanwhile, the amount of money a household brings in over time will generally increase due to inflation.
Hey, that's great. I think I have a fixed mortgage.
Lame, dude. Super lame. I don't even own a house. It's not the 20th century anymore.
Anyways, inflation is calculated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics using the CPI.
What's the CPI?
It's the Consumer Price Index. This is a measurement of the price of goods that represents a typical consumer's market basket.
Cool. So what's the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future for inflation?
What is wrong with you? In the past, inflation has been all over the place. In the 1930s, the inflation rate was actually negative. The economy was deflating. But today, inflation rates hover between 1 and 4%. Last month, the inflation rate was 1.5%.
So, what should we expect for the future?
We should expect these rates to remain fairly constant.
But what does that mean for the health of the economy?
Basically, it can be taken as a positive. Inflation is a necessary evil, and constant inflation is better than sporadic jumps in inflation.
The inflation rate really isn't the best way to determine the health of the economy, then.
That's where I come in. Ask any economist about how the economy is doing, and they'll talk to you about GDP.
GDP? Like the Great Depression?
I can't even... I don't know.
The gross domestic product. It's the total value of all the finalized products that are produced and bought in the country. It has the consumer spending, the business investments, the government purchases, and finally the net exports.
So the GDP is the best way to understand the state of the economy?
The experts speak of how the GDP does miss some important economic activity. If you cut your neighbor's grass and your neighbor gives you 20 bucks, these under-the-table shenanigans are not reported to the government and therefore not added into the gross domestic product.
So what is the GDP at now?
Currently, the GDP is at 15.09 trillion US dollars. The GDP percentage is released quarterly, and quarter 1 for 2013 will be released on April 26, 2013.
That's tomorrow!
Yep, as of right now, the estimated value of the GDP percentage is 3.2% by the Capital Spectator's average econometric nowcast. This means that compared to last quarter, the GDP grew by 3.2%. This is better than quarter 4 of 2012, which had a 0.4% increase. In 2012, the GDP increased a total of 2.2%, which is up from the 2011 GDP increase at 1.8%, which is much better than the 2009 GDP, which started at a whopping negative 5.3%. But ever since, every GDP percentage has been positive, however slight it may have been.
English, please. What does it all mean?
I'm pretty sure it means that since the 2008 recession, the economy has been growing. So we can safely say that the economy is getting healthier.
Correct. Actually, if you look all the way back to 1999, the GDP has been a positive percentage every quarter of every year, until you approach the dreaded 2008 economic downturn.
Wow, I didn't even know that GDP was such a determining factor in the state of our economy.
Yeah, well, it is pretty important when talking about the health of the economy, and it's one of the only economic indicators that I know about.
Inflation and GDP are great indicators and all, but the average person can't really calculate or perceive these indicators that well. It is a lot easier for the average person to understand that the unemployment rate is a good sign of the state of the economy.
Everyone knows what unemployment is. It's when someone doesn't have a job, right?
Well, not technically. It is actually the number of people that are out of work and are actively looking for a job divided by the entire pool of labor.
So the rate shows us about what percentage of the U.S. is not employed but want to be employed?
That's right. Let's look at the trends of unemployment. During the Great Depression, unemployment was around 22%, which was really high. During our most recent economic recession, around 2008, the unemployment rate was from 5% in 2008 to around 9.8%. And in the past few years, unemployment has hovered around 7.7%. This indicates that the economy is still recovering from the most recent contraction, but is stabilizing.
Whoa, man, too many numbers for me.
Unemployment is pretty straightforward. The higher it is, the worse off the economy is.
Let me make it a bit more confusing. There are actually 4 different kinds of unemployment: frictional, structural, cyclical, and seasonal.
Fictional, structural, who and what now?
It's better to explain these with examples. Let's ask our audience to call in and tell us their situation with unemployment, and I'll explain what type it is. We are accepting calls now.
Hello, this is Randy. I'm 24 years old. I'm currently unemployed. I've decided to go back to college to study to become a teacher because flipping burgers just isn't my thing anymore.
Randy is dealing with frictional unemployment because he chose to leave his current job to go back to school.
So if I wanted to quit this boring gig as a radio talk show host to learn the ways of a circus clown, because that's my life's dream, that would be frictional unemployment?
That sounds about right. If what I think is true, let's have another caller in. Hello?
Hey, I'm Susan, and I am now unemployed. I used to love my job on the assembly line. I put in an honest day's work every day until a stupid robot took my job. The entire company went automated.
This sounds like structural unemployment because the workers' skills were replaced with technology.
Robots, man, they're taking over the world.
No, they aren't. Let's have one last caller. Hello?
Hello, Josh, Jake, and Christian.
Hey, boss. Are you going to tell us a little more about unemployment or the economy in general?
I guess I will. The economy is not doing too well lately, and ratings suck. So after today, you 3 are fired.
That's harsh, dude.
That's cyclical unemployment for you.
Mother.
And that's all the time we have. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to join us tomorrow on the Economic Breakdown.